feature presentation.
You'll be fine on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series. Watson, touchdown. Hunter Renfrow. He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
The Citadel baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers. Get the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
All right, greetings and a good Tuesday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and driven by our friends and yours at Stokes Volkswagen. Find them at stokesvw.com. Find us on the JB and Goldwater app. You can download that, and it is for free in your phone. You can always head to jbandgoldwatershow.com as well, and you can follow us on social media at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB, and at Darren Goldwater. 843-321-8893. You can pop us a text if you'd like to do that, or you can always chime in via any platform that you might be watching or listening to our program on, and do exactly what Craig just did. What's happening, Craig? What's happening is it's football season. It's the final day of August. Tomorrow starts a can I count? A 6-day run of college football games. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So if you've been starved for the sport, it all begins tomorrow night. Jacksonville State is on ESPN, and we'll be able to catch that and then roll right into the Thursday, Friday, Saturday stuff. So we're going to talk about a lot of that with Mike Morgan today at 12:30 with ESPN and the SEC Network. I think Mike has the Vandy game this weekend, which is the opener for Clark Lee, the new head football coach of the Commodores. But we're certainly going to make our way through the Southeastern Conference with him. Gene Sapakoff at 1:30. Shane Beamer is meeting with the media at 1:15 today. And the news from Columbia is that Zeb Nolan is going to be the starting quarterback for the Gamecocks. Dabo Swinney has already been meeting with the media. We'll get you some updates from that littered throughout the show as well. We've got some Brave stuff to get to. Cam Newton is no longer a Patriot, and fake high school football teams, apparently. And apparently, somehow, some way, ESPN was totally duped in all of this, and they claim, it wasn't us. Okay. So anyways, that's all coming up here, Darren. But first and foremost, happy final day of August. By the way, just to kind of give everybody a little bit of a treat, the world has obviously had its issues for quite some time. There is a cool down coming. And if you're waking up here in the Low Country Friday morning, you're talking about lows in the upper 60s. And if you're waking up in Columbia Friday and Saturday morning, you're talking about lows in the low 60s. No rain. Might be some rain tomorrow, but this weekend there's going to be, and it's going to be dry, not sticky and humid. So a football season is starting, and the football gods have decided, Darren, they'll pass on some decent weather for us to hang out and watch our favorite sport in.
Oh, I didn't realize that. The football gods also gave us a great story that you just referenced. It's one of the weirder things that I've seen happen, as least as it relates to network television. Bishops, they had Dan Patrick a couple hours ago had a reporter on from Columbus. This school is supposedly in Columbus. The school doesn't exist. Like, there's no actual building. The whole thing is wild. And basically it was set up like a lot of these games are, and a lot of these showcase games are. It was set up by an intermediary, but like a marketing type agency, matchmakers. They got duped by him. I don't know how, and it's crazy. And they spent a whole lot of time on the air bashing Bishop Sycamore and the fact that they picked the game. It's just it's a strange story, man. Everything about it is just odd.
I have never seen such a thing. I don't understand. I don't understand how it happens. I don't understand how ESPN could just throw their hands up and say, well, we had, we can't cross-reference or we can't cross-check this or whatever. Like, who at ESPN? I mean, somebody just missed the boat. Like, you do know who you're putting on TV, right? I mean,
they have a responsibility to make sure that the game that's presented to them and packaged for them is worthy of their airtime.
Let me
ESPN.
Let me ask you, and for those tuning in on the Zeb Nolan News, we're going to get to that literally in a minute or two, so just hang tight. But you're a broadcaster. You for those that maybe don't know this, I mean, Darren has worked for CBS for a while. You travel all over the country and call games, different levels of sports, many different sports. You obviously here locally call high school football on Friday nights, and obviously in addition to what we do here on our show. But so you have a lot of jobs. Were you ever in your career, have you ever been blindsided by anything that even remotely, like, well, there's this one time, like anything at all that you're like, hey, this has happened to me, not on that level, certainly, but this has happened to me before. Yeah, we didn't know much about this team and they weren't. I mean, like, how does that happen? I mean, how do you prepare? Like, what do you get? Obviously, Anish Shroff and those guys were like, what are we doing here? What is this? That's
the most surprising thing is there's prep involved, right? I've been in touch with both high school coaches that I'll be seeing on Friday already. I have depth charts and rosters and whatnot. So then you start the process of trying to figure out who some of these guys are. That's standard preparation. So Bishop Sycamore claimed they had multiple college prospects. That's not true. Most of their guys are not high school kids. Most of them are even older than that. As you go through and prepare, you should notice that. And there should be a lot of red flags if you're not getting the information you're supposed to be getting that further your questions. Like, well, okay, what you're about to be on national television. There's a standard here. We need some information. You're giving us nothing, or the information you're giving us is a total lie, or it's true. And I know that this kid's 20. So there had to have been red flags that were missed, multiple.
Somebody somewhere's got to be losing their job over this. I mean, this is embarrassing. And if you're still on their schedule, from what I understand, they're traveling to like 6 different states to play football. I'd cancel those games.
It's not safe for your high school kids. If these are grown men playing against your 14, 15-year-old, that doesn't sound right.
No, this is really ridiculous. I mean, you realize what's coming, right? I mean, there's a 20 for 20 coming on this, or 30 for 30, or whatever the hell it is. I mean, there's going to be a movie made about this. And there's so much stuff that's coming down the road, on this. And honestly, is there somebody like is somebody due jail time for this?
Interesting question, because that was broached by Dan Patrick during his interview as well. There's no answer there. But there are a lot of things that don't sound, smell, look right at all here. I mean, from an eligibility standpoint, from the reporter brought up the fact, if the kids who were high school age, if they're on this team or with this school, whatever it is, like, what's their well-being? Who's looking out for them? Because they're not in a real school. No. I mean, there are multiple levels of can you pursue legality? Now, this coach has done it before. He's gotten in trouble for doing the same thing before. So I don't know what happens.
Well, a lot of the blame obviously is going to end up falling on the coach and the coaching staff, but it should also fall on the parents. I mean, that's just bad parenting. You let your kids associate with something like this. That's on you too. Mm-hmm. It is. And you know what? Maybe you can't be prosecuted and put behind bars for something like that. Maybe you don't deserve to be, but our job as parents is to look out for our kids and do what's in their best interest.
Yeah,
that is not in anybody's best interest. No. I mean, that's just a shame. I mean, it's just sad, is what it is. So those are sad people, man. They're sad people, and best luck to them. You know what? They're getting their freaking ass beat every week. So I hope they're enjoying that crap. Just to get on national TV, and they're getting nothing out of that. No. I mean, yeah, okay, they're on national TV. They're not getting any money out of it.
Nothing. the idea of all publicity is good. This is not good. This
No,
is not good publicity at all.
no, you just ruined your life. I mean, nobody is going to associate with you that has any fiber of decency in their body.
No,
it's a shame. All right, on to Columbia. The depth charts are out in the upstate and in the Midlands this morning, released by Steve Fink in the University of South Carolina. The Gamecocks have their man for game one at quarterback, and it will be Zeb Nolan. We have thought for a while this is probably where it was heading. As Darren mentioned a couple of weeks ago, get past the cute headlines nationally. You've already seen it, ESPN. Gamecocks starting grad assistant at quarterback. You know, Dennis Dodd with a funny little tweet out there. Didn't even know this was possible. Maybe Dennis Dodd should worry more about COVID than football. Yeah, so all that stuff's going to go on out there. Let's everybody remember something. It's the same thing we've been saying every day around here. This is game one. And by the way, in a game that they're 43-point favorites in.
Mm-hmm.
Zeb Nolan did not beat out Luke Doty or anything like that. Now, I will say this. When all this first started happening, it was kind of relayed to me, and I said it publicly, so I own this, that this was more than likely not going to happen. Mm-hmm. This was a situation that they needed to have somebody else on the field to prepare their football team. And what was left out of that conversation, and it's my fault for probably not thinking my way through this, was, well, this guy, in addition to how much he's played in his career compared to the other guys, especially kind of at this level, he basically wrote the playbook and he knows it and he understands it. And so I'm one of the leaders of this bandwagon that thought, well, this wasn't possible. So I was dead wrong on that. Now, as that changed, obviously, we've had to discuss how it was going to change. And it all makes sense now, Darren. Well, look, they don't want anybody that's going to go out and do anything dumb. The guy understands what he's doing. It's not that Jason Brown isn't capable or that he's not a good athlete or anything like that. That's all not true. He is a good athlete. But Zeb Nolan knows the playbook, and he's capable. And there's his post-up careers resume. I think you've probably seen this before. He's played at Iowa State. He's played at North Dakota State. Now he's played at South Carolina. And he's going to get a shot to go out there and start this week and hopefully lead the Gamecocks to a win over a team that they should beat handedly in Eastern Illinois. So, I just hope that the people that hear bad news and fall apart because of it don't do that. Look, there is still a bigger issue here, though, Darren, because if let's say Luke Doty's back in week 2, and God forbid he goes down in the future, you got it. Who's your quarterback? It could permanently be Zeb Nolan, or this could be buying Jason Brown some time to win out the job. It could be buying Colt Gauthier some time. Mm-hmm. We don't know. Everybody is under the mindset that, okay, Zeb Nolan's going to start game 1, and hopefully Luke Doty's back game 2, at the latest game 3 in Athens, Georgia, and then you got your quarterback back. But remember, one of the reasons for this happening, this move being made, and DeCarrion Joyner getting a couple of snaps here and there at QB just to kind of keep his mind fresh, is because the depth chart isn't that deep. They just don't have it. So, we don't know how all this stuff's going to play out, but we do know that this week Zeb Nolan will start.
Like you said, there is a problem. The problem is this shows, A, how far ahead Doty was, like you've been saying. B, this shows a lack of depth in that quarterback room that this even had to happen. So the headlines that are out there, they're fair. Because the reason they're fair is because this is a crazy story. Crazy. I mean, it's wild. It's on par with Bishop Sycamore, right? You've never heard of a school, a major conference school, pull a GA off the sidelines and say, dude, you're in. That doesn't happen. So I understand the headlines. I understand the problem, but it can be masked. It could be okay. You should win the game Saturday with ease. If you were starting the game at quarterback, you should be all right there. And then if Doty can come back for East Carolina or for Georgia, then you hope that this can kind of put itself to bed a little bit. But like you said, if there's a lingering injury, if he gets hurt again, then what happens? And then How prepared is Zeb? This is going to be one of the more followed stories for really a meaningless game on the national stage. It's South Carolina, Eastern Illinois. It's one of the biggest lines on the board.
Mm-hmm.
It's meaningless. Nobody around the country is going to pay attention. But now people are going to pay attention because you got a GA who's starting a quarterback. What's he going to show us? We know he can throw the ball. We know he has a ton of respect inside of that locker room. We know he helped write the playbook. So what's he going to show us? And what are the coaches going to let him show us?
Yeah, well, I mean, there is a plus to all this, as you just mentioned. Carolina's in the news, and it's not bad news. It's unique and interesting news. I think where I take exception, and I would probably anticipate that anybody out there at any school, if this is happening anywhere else, if you know the full story, would take exception, is because just of that. The full story. Like what's going to happen is what happens with pretty much everything in life now. You see the headline, you tweet about it, you laugh it off, and then you move on to something else to make fun of on the internet because nobody has a backbone to say anything to anybody personally anymore. That's where people are going to miss the rest of the story, which is, well, no, Zeb Nolan wasn't named the starting quarterback in South Carolina. Luke Doty was in April. Zeb Nolan has pulled, yes, that part is true. They pulled the GA tag off of him. He helped write the playbook, and he's a guy that has more experience than pretty much anybody else. He's played just recently, as you just mentioned, is 5 months ago. And so he is basically going to be a holdover until Luke Doty gets back, and then hopefully Doty's able to stay healthy. But again, what a lot of people will miss in this story on a national scale, somebody out in California or Texas or wherever, is Zeb Nolan did not, when they see the headline, Zeb Nolan did not win it's not like Shane Beamer went and said, okay, we don't have any quarterbacks here. We're going to pull the GA tag off you. You're the starter. That's not what happened. That's because Luke Doty had an injury. So hopefully people will hear the whole story. Again, at the end of the day, as you just mentioned, you or I could probably go out there and play quarterback this weekend, turn around and hand it off to those tailbacks, and the Gamecocks will win the game. And they'll win it comfortably. I'll go ahead and give you a preview of what our pick is going to be on Friday. I'll speak for Darren. We're both picking South Carolina to beat Eastern Illinois, and handedly. This was anticipated news, to be honest with you. Everybody reacts when the news comes out. It was anticipated. I'll tell you what actually popped to me over everything, something that we've already discussed, and that's the fact that Zaquandre White is listed first on the depth chart for South Carolina at running back. However, it is or. Kevin Harris is at the bottom. Why? Well, because Kevin Harris has been hurt, and I don't think we're going to see him this week. Shane is coming up in an hour, and I'm sure he'll speak on all of this. We will see a Marshawn Lloyd. We will see Juju McDowell. But in addition to that, Rashad Amos is not in that top four, a guy who played really well towards the end of last season. And so, I don't think, Darren, I don't anticipate a transfer here with 3 days before the start of the season. But, Rashad Amos was a guy I was really excited to see this year. And we talked to Pat DeMarco a couple of weeks ago, and he was gushing over him. So does that mean that he's not played as well lately? Or does it mean that Juju McDowell has just really played well?
You don't know. And I would agree that I wouldn't expect a transfer out of this. It's obviously possible at any given second. Kids these days, and I don't know him personally at all. I've never spoken to him. So it's always possible that someone gets their feathers ruffled. I'm out of here. I wouldn't expect that at all right here, but we don't know. Beamer's going to talk later in about an hour. Maybe he's got some insight into that. The answer is we don't know. Maybe he was just beat out. Maybe they ran out of room on their PDF and didn't have enough room for another or. I mean, who knows? But with all the positive thoughts about Amos leading up to this day, that it's, I guess, surprising to some degree that he's not at least listed on there. But at the end of the day, these are basically meaningless, right? We have a good idea who's going to play. This is true across the country. And if you're not on there, that's fine. I talk to coaches all the time. Hey, anybody else that I should be looking out for that's not on your depth chart or featured in stats or something that I can obviously see? And you're going to get an answer out of them. Yeah, watch out for this guy. Watch out for that guy. So Amos could be that guy.
Absolutely could be. Look, I think I don't think we see Kevin Harris this week. No. I do think we see all four of those other running backs. I think Juju's in there. I think Amos is in there. I think they all play. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people on the field this week. And if you're a Gamecock fan, you're probably going to need to either print out this depth chart and the roster, more than likely, and bring it with you, or buy a program, which is kind of old school. Even though when I was a kid, I used to love to buy those programs for $5. Because there's going to be some dudes out there that hopefully are going to be able to get in and play a bunch because, they're expected to beat Eastern Illinois probably pretty handedly. The rest of it looks like this. Let's all remember this as well. These are listed starters and a listed depth chart. Mm-hmm. But especially offensively, if you come out in a different formation, that doesn't mean you're going to see all these guys on the field necessarily first. Nothing has changed at offensive line. They feel really good. As a matter of fact, I talked to somebody last night. I said, how's the offensive line look? And they said, really good. That's our strength. That was the quote. Jasden Turntine, Jalen Nichols, Eric Douglas, Javon Gwynn, Dylan Wanham, left to right, Nick Muse and Jaheim Bell. And so they do have E.J. Jenkins on the depth chart at tight end behind Nick Muse. And then, of course, at wide receiver, Jalen Brooks, Dakereon Joyner, and Josh Vann. Those are the three that are listed at starter, and we've known for a while that those were the three that have been playing the best. Amarian Brown has really come on lately. And I'll tell you, Jakari Caldwell's surprised me, and I know he's not a name that's popular yet amongst Gamecock fans, but he's worked his way up the depth chart. So that's really good news. I think he's from the Rock Hill area, as a matter of fact. Shocker. And then on the defensive side of the football, Jordan Birch is still backing up Aaron Sterling, Jabari Ellis, Zach Pickens, J.J. Enigbari. Nothing surprising there. Nothing surprising at linebacker with Sherrod Green and Brad Johnson. And then in the secondary, Dial Dickerson or Roderick or Jamar Brown. So strong safety. They're going to try to get that thing worked out, although Dickerson is listed first. And then Jalen Foster, Darius Rush, and David Spalding. So Cam Smith is an or as well with Darius Rush. That's from an injury standpoint, it appears. Again, I'm sure Shane will be asked about that coming up here in just a little while. Will we see Cam Smith this week, who's probably the team's best corner? I don't know. I guess it'll have to depend on how he's feeling, whether they feel comfortable putting him out there, Darren. But overall, not a ton of shockers. I've pointed out a couple of things here and there that stood out, but nothing that is overly blowing anybody away.
No, the big news here is obviously Zeb Nolan. I mean, that was what we thought would happen. It's the headliner. It's the quarterback. It's the GA. So here's your depth chart. And yes, Zeb Nolan is sitting on top of it. But like you just said, it's Eastern Illinois, A. So lots of people are going to play. Mm-hmm. B, depends on the formation. That's true for a lot of teams out there these days. You might have an extra receiver out there. You might have an extra tight end out there. You might start with 2 running backs out there. Who knows? So it's a game one depth chart. It's pretty hard to take much from a game one depth chart.
Yeah, absolutely. It's Eastern Illinois, and we'll see what changes heading into week 2. But Gamecocks 43.5-point favorites in this ball game. 43.5-point favorites. If I was going to bet on it, unfortunately, I'd probably take the under. I'm not a big over the 43.5 guy, if you ask me. All right, 12:24 on this Tuesday afternoon. Couple of minutes left, and then we'll get out of here and get to Mike Morgan, who is set to join us at 12:30. Mike will be calling that Vanderbilt game this weekend. Clark Lee will make his debut as a head coach of the Commodores. Other games, of course, around the state this weekend. We all know about the big one in Charlotte, and that is Clemson and Georgia. We're certainly going to talk to Mike about that. The Citadel at Coastal is 2 days away up there in Conway. Furman's going to host North Carolina A&T. Wofford is at Elon, South Carolina State. They are at Alabama A&M. CSU is not up this weekend. So that's some of what's going on around the state. Dabo Swinney, real quick, from his press conference today as well, gushing over his wide receivers. Matter of fact, he said he told Tyler Grisham, I don't know if you saw this or not, take a picture, and we need to look back in 6 years I think this group's going to accomplish something pretty special. I think what he means is they might all be in the NFL in 6 years, having big-time professional careers. And when you look at that depth chart, 6'3", 210, 6'4", 210, 6'3", 220. Same old for Clemson. Big guys, big hands, catch the football, move well. Seem to be pretty excited about it today, and also very complimentary of Georgia.
The more lead up we have and the closer we get to this Georgia game, the more I'm anticipating seeing what Clemson looks like, because there is this chip on the shoulder mentality. Now, we've heard Dabo-isms like forever, right? But this feels different this time because they were embarrassed. The last time we saw them, they were embarrassed. And now they have game one against Georgia. They don't have time to get ready for Georgia, for this test, for their redemption shot to the world, because that in a lot of ways is what this is. So the closer we get to this game, the more intrigued I am to see if this defense can really live up to it. If Shipley's like, I don't know how good he is. Everything about this team, I want to know, because we're not going to have another great opportunity until much later in the year. I want to know if they are elite, if they're a top four, if they're a national championship contender. Everything can change after week one, but we're going to have an idea. And that's intriguing. It's more intriguing than a typical Clemson season opener, at least for me, in a long time.
Yeah, much to the chagrin of Gamecock fans, there is almost an eerie confidence coming out of the upstate right now, where they're, just kind of, we'll see on Saturday.
Yeah, they're quiet. They're doing their work. They're quiet. When they talk, it's, we got something to prove. That's all I got to say. Like, yes.
Yeah. We'll see you Saturday. That's pretty much what I've been getting out of the comments from Dabo Swinney and his Tigers over the last week or so. Again, the depth chart is out for the Gamecocks. We went over it. We'll catch up more on some of that here in just a minute with Mike Morgan, who's set to join us from the SEC Network and ESPN. We'll talk much more in detail about this Georgia-Clemson game and what it means for both programs, specific to outcomes as the season rolls along. Mike's got the Vandy game, and there are, of course, very interesting games involving the SEC coming up this weekend. Bama's got one, LSU has one, and much more. So hang tight. The JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. We'll be right back.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right, we take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesvw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle, and we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Negative trade equity financed a new loan, subject to lender approval.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
You hear me talk about Dog and Duck all the time, and there's no other place I'm going to watch my college and NFL than the Dog and Duck. They have 3 locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. They have specials all football season long, like $12 pitchers of their own D2 brew, $5 pints of Sierra Nevada, weekly pick'em sheets with prizes, and the best wings in town, bar none. For all your football, college, and NFL, the Dog and Duck, Clements Ferry Road, Bell Hall, and Park West.
Hey, South Carolina, what's going on? This is Patrick Davis, and you are listening to my friends JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Your love lifting me higher
12:29 on this Tuesday afternoon. Welcome back. The JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. Football season powered by Wando Power Equipment, wandopower.com in the low country, but people come from everywhere, literally everywhere. I think I mentioned not too long ago that somebody had come from right outside of Greenville. Gosh, where was it? Was it Piedmont, South Carolina. Little old Piedmont. Of course, I guess it's not little old Piedmont anymore. This state's growing like crazy. But they come from everywhere. Zero-turn mowers, whatever you need. Push mower, weed whacker. You need to rent a trailer. You need to rent a stump grinder. You need to aerate the lawn. Anything. It's all at Wando Power. They power football season here on the JB and Goldwater Show. Again, wandopower.com. By the way, and this shouldn't deter some of our audience. They are proud Clemson fans. They're great people, though. Great people. I promise you. Even though our colors don't mesh, we certainly do, because they're just wonderful people, and we're happy to be a part of their family. Mike will join us here in just a moment. So let me step in and tell everybody how this works. Darren knows exactly how this works. When you have to call games on Saturdays for a broadcast network, you generally have conference calls with coaches throughout the week and things like that. He had a conference call today at 12, and he's basically wrapping that up right now and then hopping right on with us, and then he's going to get off, and I think he's got another one to get on or something kind of crazy. So you broadcasters are, look, Mike needs to work. All he does is travel from May until August.
Yeah, and the goal is, ideally, on the day when you are going to talk to coaches, I mean, I don't know how much in-person stuff they're doing anymore, but there used to be, they'd probably get there on Thursday, and then Friday would be their day for the home coaches, and they would do some type of conference call with the road coaches. I don't know if anything's in person, but whatever you do, Zoom-wise, conference call-wise, ideally, you can stack them. So, like, you've got a day's worth of work instead of throwing things in multiple days. It would make sense if he's got a call at 12 and another one at like 1 or 1:30 or something like that.
Absolutely.
But they're invaluable. It's one of the best ways for me to prep are the conversations with the coaches and going back and watching previous games. I mean, the articles, the stories, everything you can find, all that stuff is great. Stats are the least important. But going back and watching,
some people don't understand that.
A lot of people don't understand that. I was having that. Jeff McCarriger is doing the Coastal Carolina Citadel game on Thursday.
Yeah, and Nate Ross too.
Yep. And I was talking to Jeff last night, just about broadcaster stuff. I won't bore you, but stats was part of the conversation, and how we even put stats on the board, and how and why we would reference them, because especially when you're doing TV, it's the stats should be on TV. You give it if there's some context, if it makes sense, if it elevates the purpose of what you're saying, fine. But it takes a lot to get to that level.
Yeah, that's a good point. Some people don't get it. Jason Brown was not going to meet with the media today. They had some class conflicts, but he showed up. I don't know if he's skipping class or what. But real quick from Jason Brown here, asked about Zeb Noland getting the start. Quote, "I love Zeb, and I hope he succeeds, because that means that our team is succeeding." So that's from Jason Brown on Zeb Noland. And then he went on to say they made the decision of who they felt can put us in the best position to win. So speaking very positively of his teammate, Zeb Noland, who's obviously got the start against Eastern Illinois coming up on Saturday night at Williams-Brice Stadium. By the way, for those that are going to Williams-Brice Stadium on Saturday, all of you certainly are aware of the situation out there with COVID. They will be offering vaccinations in Gamecock Park. If you are interested in getting vaccinated and have not had a chance to do so, or haven't been able to schedule one, if you haven't heard that, they will be offering vaccinations across the street, and it's not just some drunk guy or some part-time doctor or something like that. This is DHEC, I believe, that's arranged this over in Gamecock Park. So for those interested,
yeah, it's a partner. DHEC is a partner with the school, so they're doing that. I want to say from 2:30 to 6:30.
To 6:30.
I think that was the time frame.
Yeah.
Good for them. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. No, I think it's they should probably do this everywhere to try to keep people safe. I don't know if you just run over there and for those that maybe aren't vaccinated, they can sit out there and get drunk all day and then say, yeah, screw it, I'm going to go get a vaccine. Does that mean that you're immediately protected walking into the game?
No.
I don't know. I don't think it does.
No,
I think
it does not. But
it takes
a good start for you.
Yeah. The liquor might be helping you out a little bit more than that vaccine's going to, at least for the moment. But in a couple of weeks, the vaccination will probably matter. So maybe keep that one on your radar. Speaking of other games and those we're going to talk to Mike about here again in just a moment. Thursday night, it is the Josh Heupel era beginning up in Knoxville, Tennessee, and this is kind of around the Southeastern Conference. And in addition to that, obviously those games that Darren has on the screen right there, the national games, Coastal and the Citadel, ECU and App State, Ohio State, Minnesota, the ones we're kind of keeping our eyes on. And then you got South Florida Thursday night. They're up there at NC State. We'll get to more of that here in just a minute. Tennessee's going to welcome Bowling Green. That's the Heupel era on the SEC Network at 8 o'clock. And then Saturday, UL Monroe at Kentucky. What do Wildcats look like with Will Levis, by the way, taking over at quarterback, the transfer from Penn State. Arkansas's got Rice coming to town, Miami and Bama. We know that at 3:30 on ABC. Mississippi State will welcome Skip Holtz and Louisiana Tech to town. Starkville, 4 o'clock, ESPNU. Also at 4 o'clock, Central Michigan. I believe they're the Chippewas.
They are.
They will take on Missouri and Connor Bazelak and Eli Drinkwitz up there in Columbia, the other Columbia, Fairhope Field on the SEC Network. Auburn's got Akron at 7 o'clock that night on the SEC Network Plus. We know about Eastern Illinois and the Gamecocks, Georgia and Clemson. We're aware of that as well, by the way, 7:30 on ABC. Florida Atlantic at Florida that night. A&M welcomes Kent State to town. East Tennessee State at Vandy. That's the game that Mike Morgan will be calling. And then UCLA has LSU coming to town. And I was listening to Kirk Herbstreit this weekend, and he's bullish on UCLA and Chip Kelly. He thinks LSU should be careful out there. And, we'll see what Mike thinks about it here in a minute. Again, he's set to join us any second now. We kind of talked about this, the last couple of weeks, and obviously as the week goes along, it'll become more front and center. Yeah, don't lose that one, LSU. I get it. It's a tough trip, and, maybe UCLA is a little bit better, but don't lose that one. Don't do it, because what follows a loss against UCLA might not be good. They're not going to lose the next couple of games, but at Mississippi State, if you lose, here's my point. If you lose that game, and that place is maybe going to be half full, Darren, because of COVID protocols and things like that, you got to go to Mississippi State. You got to go to Kentucky. You got Florida. You got to go to Ole Miss. You got to go to Alabama. You got A&M. I'm not saying that they lose all those games. I'm just saying all of a sudden some of those games that looked kind of tricky become a lot trickier.
Right. And how good is UCLA, right? I mean, is Herbstreit's logic, is his thought process right? I mean, I'm sure the process there is right, but is he right? We all make predictions. Everybody makes predictions. This one could be right, and this one could be dead wrong. Yeah. If he's right and UCLA does take a significant step forward with Chip Kelly, then some of those teams that you just mentioned, well, UCLA is probably better than them. And I don't know what it means for LSU having lost to the UCLA prior to playing the Mississippi State of the world. Mm-hmm. If UCLA hasn't taken a significant step forward and they beat LSU, then that's going to be a problem. Regardless, if UCLA beats LSU, fans are going to be going nuts. Orgeron, the seat's not hot, but there's enough questions around it right now just because of last year, which you can logically throw out the window because it was last year and nothing made sense. But still, there's a lot of heat. So if he goes out and loses to UCLA, that's not going to be good. The line is already much closer than I think most SEC fans would have ever imagined.
What is the line?
4.
Whew. Yeah, well, and where are they? Are they in Houston right now, LSU? They evacuated Baton Rouge because of the hurricane.
Yes, I'm not sure where they went.
I feel like they went to Houston, but I might be wrong. But either way, they're not home. So the plan was to evacuate, practice wherever they were going, and then fly from there to L.A., play the game, and then hopefully be able to get back into Baton Rouge. And I'm not sure how much that plan has deviated or not. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
But so you already have an unusual circumstance here with the fact that what's today? Tuesday?
Yes.
And they evacuated when? Friday or Saturday? Somewhere in there.
Either, yeah, it hit Sunday.
Okay, so they will have been away from home for over a week before they play that game at UCLA, who did play this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
They beat Hawaii at home. And UCLA already has a game under their belt.
The line is 3 now, by the way.
Yeah, this is it's interesting. I just feel like it's getting scarier and scarier by the minute because of circumstances. My point with UCLA is they've already played 4 quarters of football. So not that they've worked out every kink out there, nobody has, but they at least are able to, they were at least able to get out and play. LSU is opening the season on the road.
Mm-hmm.
The good news for LSU is they do have 4 quarters worth of tape on UCLA, but they haven't been home in a week. So if you're weighing all of these external factors, the weight is in favor of UCLA maybe pulling a big upset at home against the Tigers.
Yeah, because you want to talk about adversity. Well, here it is. You haven't even played a game. There's pressure on you to see if you can be the team right behind Alabama in the West, or better yet, compete with Alabama in the West. And then everything from a continuity standpoint, creatures of habit, is thrown into flux because you got a hurricane and you're scrambling. You got COVID issues that you're dealing with. You haven't played. UCLA is just kind of hanging out. They played. They're practicing. They're going through the motion, whatever their motions are. Everything's staying consistent for them. It's a lot to go through here for LSU. This is a big test. If they can go out and play well, I think that says more about the direction of this program. If they go out and don't look wonderful, it's week 1. There are a lot of hurdles out there. If they go out and really look good, then that says more to me about the mindset of this team and where Ed Orgeron has these guys right now.
Yeah, I mean, and he knows UCLA. I mean, Ed Orgeron spent time at Southern Cal and things like that. But if they struggle and they don't win the game, it doesn't mean that the season's over in any way, shape, or form. But what it does is open them up to that flash in the pan type criticism, where people are going to reference 2019 as a flash in the pan, not because they're not talented. They're better than UCLA. Like, they have more talent than UCLA. It's really not close. But that doesn't mean that they can't go out there and lose the game. And again, according to, like, I would trust a guy like Kirk Herbstreit in this situation because he is, he's, first of all, he's known Chip Kelly a long time. He's a national guy who's paying much more attention than I've been paying to a team like UCLA. Mm-hmm. And there are people out there that say, hey, look, this team, like, I don't think anybody is proclaiming that UCLA is a top program in the Pac-12 just yet. Could they be? Maybe. I mean, they might. I don't know. It's way too early for that. But they're better than they have been. They just haven't been that good. I mean, they had some good games last year finally under Chip Kelly, but mostly it's been a disappointment over the last couple of years under him, and obviously prior to that, or they wouldn't have had to make a change. So, if you look at the SEC schedule and say, all right, well, of the quote unquote big games, Darren, big games, who has the best chance to lose? I probably who has the best chance to lose is Georgia. But which one would be the biggest? Which one would be the most believable upset? I think it'd be this game. I think it'd be this game in my opinion, because I don't see Bama losing to Miami. So let's just get that out of the way.
We can agree right there. And the weird thing is, Clemson, Georgia feels like it should be a 3-point line. It is a 3-point line. That it feels right. It feels like a heavyweight battle. LSU, UCLA doesn't feel like it should be a 3-point line. It feels like that would be a little bit bigger. I'll give props to Josh Pate. Before the official lines came out, he nailed this one and was very upfront about, hey, I'm putting this line out and you guys aren't going to agree with it, but just wait and see. I don't know if he nailed it on the number, but he was right around 4.5, something like that. And that's where the line came out. So it just does, it's a very different 3-point margin feel. There's just one feels like a heavyweight fight and the other feels like two teams scratching for respect. It's very different.
12:44 on Tuesday afternoon. Again, I hope we're getting Mike Morgan. We were scheduled to, but maybe
hard to get off those conference calls because every now and then you get a coach. You don't want to tell the coach to shut up. Like you got what you need and you're good and you're having good conversation. You don't want to tell him to stop.
Yeah. No.
Every now and then you get a coach who wants to talk. It can be tough.
Well, Jason Brown has stopped speaking. By the way, Shane Beamer has informed Jason Brown he will play, and he will play early in the game on Saturday. So kind of like we were anticipating here, there's a lot of days are going to play for South Carolina on Saturday. That includes I would venture a guess you're going to see at least 3 quarterbacks. Might see 4 in this ball game. But I have every reason to believe that Colton Gauthier is also going to play in this game. We know Zeb Brown's going to play. Zeb Nolan is going to play, and we also know that Jason Brown is going to play. I have every reason to believe that Colton Gauthier will get in there, and you might even see somebody else. Maybe not, but at least those 3 guys, which will be, as you and I talked about. I mean, I know that a lot of the focus with the headlines in the Twitter world and all these other social media platforms that I'm not on, thankfully, has been on the fact that Zeb Nolan is starting. Oh my God. Zeb Nolan, this is actually happening. My focus is more along the lines of how much can you get out of this game to prepare these guys for the rest of the season if something else does happen to Luke Doty. Like, that's totally where my mind is. How early can you get this game in hand and successfully prepare these guys? Here's what I mean by that, by the way. The old Steve Spurrier. And I'm talking about the old Steve Spurrier, where he would say, well, it's your job to stop us. We're going to, one of my biggest pet peeves, Darren, one of my biggest pet peeves in the world. And Will Muschamp was absolutely guilty of this. And I could prove that with one game. Florida in 2018, when they were beating them 30, I don't even know what it was now, 31-14. 31-14. And it was like, oh, yeah, let's run the clock out. And they lost. Everybody remembers they lost the game 35-31. It was just a shame. The Spurrier mindset should be literally what everybody in football does. Honestly, if you're beating the crap out of somebody and it's 45-0, you get, all right, we're going to call the dogs off and we're going to put in the second team or we're going to put in the third team or whoever. It doesn't matter. Run your offense. It's their job to stop you. If you hurt their feelings, who gives a crap? It's your job to get these guys in there and have them execute the same things, because if the dude in front of them goes down, they have to go in and do that, probably against somebody who's going to be better than the team you're beating down the road. So it's my hope. Yeah, I get it. If you're pounding somebody into submission and there's 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter or whatever, and you're like, let's just wind this thing down out of respect for somebody, but shutting things down and, at halftime or halfway through the third quarter and stuff like that, that's a no-no. Even at the start of the fourth quarter, get your guy, especially for a team like South Carolina right now, who's trying to rebuild, rebrand, regrow, whatever you want to call it, their future. If you play a lot of guys because you're having a successful night against a very inferior opponent in Eastern Illinois, just like Perry Orr said yesterday, run your offense, run it.
Yeah. If you get to the 60, 70 point area, then okay, you can, but it's not going to happen in the third quarter. That'll be at that point, fine. That's also why I think you're going to see at least 3 is the absolute minimum, because what if something happens to Zeb Nolan or to Luke Doty when he comes back? You don't want Brown hurt in this game. You want him to play. You want him to get experience. That's why you're just going to see at least 3, because Brown's got to get out of that game after he gets his experience. And it'd be great to get Gauthier's feet wet. Though the word on Gauthier has been it's just adjusting to college, right? The college game, the speed, everything about college. Get his feet wet. Good. It makes sense to get at least 3 guys in there. And then after that, who knows?
Most important thing this week after actually winning the game is make sure that everybody's healthy and moving forward. This team, Darren, this South Carolina football team, we have Gene Sapakoff, by the way, coming up at 1:30 this afternoon. this South Carolina football team has to learn how to win, and they have to learn how to put people out of their misery. That's what they have to learn. Like, that is – Muschamp teams didn't know how to do that. Spurrier teams knew how to win. The latter years of Spurrier, they didn't know how to put people out of their misery. They didn't know how to do it. It was a pretty poorly coached. I mean, that 2014 team that set all those records offensively, that was Steve Spurrier and G.A. Mangus written all over it. They went out every night and did what they were supposed to do. But obviously on the defensive side of the football, it went back into that same old. We're up by 2 touchdowns. Let's not necessarily prevent defense, but let's just try not to get beat here. And it cost them in 3 games that year. They would have won at least 10 once again. And it was just the downfall. We all know we're not going down that rabbit hole. But Muschamp teams never truly learned how to win. And when they were up in games, or when they had a chance in games to strike that match and to set this thing on fire, they didn't know how to do it. And a lot of that, I'd say the majority of it comes from leadership. It comes from the top. You generally take on the mentality of your coach, right? So, that excuse me, that's what a lot of these great teams, I mean, people can criticize guys like Dabo Swinney all they want to. Dabo Swinney taught his teams a few years ago how to beat the crap out of people. And yeah, there are times where we're going to have to pull the dogs off at halftime because it's 50-0. Okay, it's going to happen. But you earn that. You earn that. Once you've done it to enough people, you earn the right to, well, we know what's going to happen here. We know that this thing's under control. We're going to keep executing and doing our thing. Carolina hadn't earned any of that. And this game tomorrow, and if they happen to have another one like it somewhere during the year, God willing, for the Gamecocks, those are the moments that can build the future. Play everybody, run your offense, run your defense, build confidence, and teach them how to step on somebody's throat.
Yeah, we were talking about it last year with this team, and obviously it never happened. But that's one of the big things, learning how to win. It's not just about finishing the job and winning. It's also about understanding that if things are going well and then you hit a bump and all of a sudden your 14-10 lead is now 17-14, the other guy with 3 minutes to go, you're feeling pretty confident. Learning how to win is about responding to that. That's a lot of what Shane Beamer's been doing ever since he was hired. It's about mental. It's about the attitude. It's about the overall vibe that has been the consistent theme throughout this offseason. It's part of learning how to win, because if you're not right mentally, then it's really easy for you to get hit in the face and fall down and never get back up.
Yeah, I mean, I like what Tyler said. Do you tell your pinch hitter to come off the bench and strike out? No. I mean, like when I coached baseball, and we could have been, matter of fact, this did happen. We were beating somebody bad, 15-0 or something ridiculous, and kind of emptied the bench halfway through the game. Final score was like 25-0, literally. And these were 16 and 17-year-old kids. I mean, we had a pretty good team, but nobody liked that. And I said, well, it's your job to get them out. I mean, I'm not going to tell them to go up there and get out. I mean, they got to figure it. You never know. Somebody gets hot, they might play their way right into the lineup. So, hopefully that's good to come this week for South Carolina. We'll certainly see, no doubt. All right, some NFL news to pass along, and then we will be headed towards the top of the hour here. Cam Newton has been cut by the New England Patriots. Looks like Mac Jones, former Alabama quarterback, is going to get the start up there, or will be QB1, and will get at least the first start, and presumptively all the others for New England moving forward. Is Cam Newton's career over, or is somebody going to sign him?
Well, I was pretty convinced it was on life support before he went to New England, and he wasn't awesome last year. I thought it was curious how Bill Belichick was attaching himself to Cam Newton this whole offseason. He's my guy. He's my guy. He's my guy. Yet what you saw on the field was pretty obvious he wasn't your guy. Mac Jones, check this out. He's got 10 drives this preseason. 8 of them have resulted in points. 0 of them have resulted in turnovers. 2 of them are punts. There are 5 touchdowns. There are 3 field goals, 2 punts in his 10 possessions in this preseason. Mac Jones is the guy. And once you got to that point, the best response I saw about this was, all right, if you're going to have a backup quarterback on your roster, it's important that he's a good locker room guy. It's important he's got the respect. Cam Newton doesn't, he's never been one of those guys. So if you're going to have a rookie start over Cam Newton, what's the point? It's not like Cam's going to be the mentoring type, sit behind you with a clipboard and coach you up. So it surprised me that he got released. It does not surprise me that Mac Jones got the starting gig. By the way, there was a picture tweeted out. I don't remember which game it was after, but it was Mac Jones, it was Hurts, and it was Tua. It was after an Alabama game. Mm-hmm. So there's pictures tweeted out of these guys all dirtied up. Maybe it was a national championship. I don't know. I mean, it's 3 NFL starting quarterbacks that were in the locker room together.
And 2 of them are in the AFC East. They're going to see a bunch of each other.
They're starting against each other week 1. Mac Jones, Tua.
That's my point. The last 2 starters, Alabama. I mean, so if you're Alabama, I mean, you don't have there's no better recruiting pitch than that. Hey, look at our last basically 3 starting quarterbacks. They're all starting in the NFL right now. The question I have now is who ends up having the better career? Is it Mac Jones or is it Tua Tagovailoa? I don't know. That's TBD.
So it's TBD, right? You can't answer because you don't know what Mac Jones is going to look like. You don't know what Tua looks like this year. I've said since before Tua was drafted that I am not on the Tua train, and I am not changing my opinion. The injuries were a concern for me. It just wasn't something that I loved getting behind. And what we've seen from Mac Jones is preseason in college. So I don't know. Word is Tua's had a great offseason. Great preseason. Okay. Let's see.
Darius Rucker would really like Tua to be pretty good this year. Big Dolphins fan. Sang about it, of course. On that note, look, I figured out in September of 2010 that I was not a fan of Cam Newton. And that was Gamecocks went down to Auburn that night. I was there. Matter of fact, sitting in the stands with the DeMarcos and the Garcias, which was interesting because Steven got pulled out of that game because he fumbled twice. And then, because he threw 2 picks. And then Connor came in and fumbled twice. 4 turnovers in the fourth quarter. Carolina gave up the lead, and Cam Newton and Auburn won. And that was kind of their turnaround game. That's the game that they started kind of figuring out after that, and they ran all the way to the national championship. But that night, I figured out quickly, I'm not a big fan of Cam Newton at all. He was in addition to all the stuff he had done before that at Florida, the laptop thing, and they did the whole throat slash at the fans, and nobody saw it on TV and all that stuff. Ever since then, I've just said I don't care about Cam Newton. When the Panthers drafted him, I was like, whatever. You know what? I'm not going to be a big Panthers fan. So
Cam the athlete and Cam the person, the 2 very, very different people. I mean, because he did so many good things, and I don't know what community relations wise he did in New England or has done, but in Carolina he did a ton. That was a massive part of what he was and who Cam Newton was as a person was his community involvement. But on the field, his antics and his pouting and then his outfits and everything, they're just it's 2 separate conversations. I agree with you. I don't want Cam Newton as my quarterback.
No,
he could end up in Washington, by the way. I guess that's one. But I didn't want Cam Newton ending up in Washington when he ended up in New England. I don't want Cam Newton as my quarterback, but is he a good person to have around the community? If there's a way to get him involved, I mean, as a person, he's a good person, it seems.
12:59 on this Tuesday afternoon. Time for a timeout. The national anthem, brought to you by Patriots Point, is up next. Gene Sapakoff still ahead as well, 1:30. So hang tight. Hour 1 in the books. Hour 2 coming up next on the JB and Goldwater Show.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risk their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
Bourbon and whiskey drinkers of Charleston. Paddock and Whiskey on James Island and the Terrace Shopping Center on Maybank is your home for the finest and rarest bourbon and whiskey drinks in the Lowcountry. This is where I hang out. Go meet my friends Reed and Chris and try one of their exclusive barrel pick bourbons. They have the largest private barrel collection in the state, and let their knowledgeable staff recommend your next pour. PaddockandWhiskey.com. Let not your heart be troubled. Paddock and Whiskey is here for your next double. We're all friends around here. Paddock and Whiskey, proud partners of the JB and Goldwater Show.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Lowcountry. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit StonoFerryGolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. StonoFerryGolf.com.
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Clamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the national anthem.
JB Goldwater Show. Live, loud, and online.
Holy moly. Welcome back, the JB and Goldwater Show. I don't know what the hell's going on around here. Driven by Stokes Volkswagen, StokesVW.com. Well, you know, Mike Morgan joins us from Atlanta, Georgia. We know you were on a conference call. I thought you had to be off at 12:55 for something else. You don't have to jump in.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good.
You look very comfortable in this setting here. It looks like we're lounging back here.
Were you taking a nap? Like what's going on?
No. This is the look you have when you talk Vanderbilt football for 45 minutes.
Poor Clark.
This is this time of year, we are all about meetings and a lot of them, and Zoom only makes them easier to have. So this was a production meeting, where my partners, Kirk Morrison, Don Davenport, producer, director, graphics, we all just get on one big old Zoom and talk about things that we're looking at for the game, and then we'll have conference calls with each coach and each coordinator, and then eventually we actually get to the game. So it's just all part of the process.
So I was explaining before that once you go through all this stuff, you get to the game. The game's the easy part. But by then, like, you're ready.
Yeah, I mean,
doing all this stuff.
But right. It's it's definitely a far cry from radio. I mean, radio, of course, has none of this. You show up. Now, I always took pride when I was doing Gamecock games that obviously I knew South Carolina. I mean, that was a 24/7 deal. It was just part of my routine. You ate breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you slept, and you talked Gamecock athletics, and you kept up with everything. And so that was the easy part. But I always thought, even as an announcer for a team or a program or a school, that you're doing the audience a disservice if you don't know anything about the opponent and you just sit there and look at it 100% through the lens. Like it's kind of like the infamous line in Caddyshack when Schmelz asks Chevy Chase, says, well, if you don't keep score, how do you judge yourself against other golfers? And Chevy says, by height. Of course, Chevy Chase is about 6'5". Right. Well, to a different degree, how do you know if you're really doing anything good? How do you know if this was really a big play, or if your offense played that well, or if you need to know some stuff about your opponent. So, yeah, exactly, Clint, my height. You have to. So I always, I mean, if you were listening to one of the Gamecock broadcasts when I was doing, you knew a lot about the opponent as well. And you knew about the matchup and how they stacked up. I just think it's kind of lazy to just focus on the team that you're doing, and maybe you can get away with that. Obviously, with television, we don't have a rooting interest in anything, in anybody. So you want to be well versed. Yes, it's SEC network, so there's going to be slightly more coverage on the SEC school and not a conference game like this, but you want to know about both. So anyway, that's part of the week. And yes, you're right, Darren. Once you get to the game, that's the easy part, relatively speaking, because you're just reacting to what's happening. Now, a lot of things can still go wrong, as we know, but you just hope that all the preparation goes smoothly once you actually get on the air, and you hope that it's a good game.
So I guess because you're going to be in Nashville, you get to actually get on the road and do this again.
Nashville in week 1 and Baton Rouge for a night game in week 2. Like, I'm on the road. This is great. I like it.
Two good places. Well, Nashville for Nashville.
Baton Rouge for the environment. Yeah. And there's some good restaurants in Baton Rouge.
Oh yeah. Well, but hold on, we'll get to Baton Rouge in a minute, because LSU, they're not looking to week 2 yet. They're
I know it.
They might have something on their hands this week. The big question though is, what are you doing in Nashville? Is Michael Haney going to take you out? Are you going to go out on the town? You going to ride a mechanical bull? What are you going to do?
Next time you have Haney on the show, you give him hell, because
oh no.
I'm all excited when I see Nash. First of all, I love Nashville. It's one of my favorite cities. I have a sister who lives there. It's my favorite SEC town. It's not even close. But so I'm all excited, and I said, Michael, what are we doing? Where are we going? What musical lineup do you have set up for me that I'll just sit there, watch, kick a few back, and enjoy? He's like, I'm on the road that week. I'm sorry. So I will not see Michael Haney. Very disappointed, but I will not get cheated either. I will enjoy Nashville. I will eat well. I will have a good time. Never disappointed on any of my Nashville trips.
And Patrick's not there either. He's in Alaska.
Yeah. And I asked about Patrick, because I've met Patrick through Michael. That would have been like plan B or C, but he's gone. So nobody with any musical talent will be hanging out with me in Nashville.
Well, there's not any musical talent in Nashville, so
well,
they won't be hanging out with him. I'm just
right.
Kidding. Patrick, I was actually talking to him last night. He sent me a text about some things he had done for us, and I said, well, where are you? He said, just landed in Alaska. I said, the state? Is there a town called Alaska I'm not aware of? Nope. He's in Alaska.
Good for him.
So,
a gig is a gig, man.
I don't know what he's doing. You never know, Patrick. Yeah, I talked to him one day. He's in Cabo.
He said it was a once in a lifetime. When he was on with us, there was something that got thrown together. I don't know who he's with. but it was like a once in a lifetime type of experience that he couldn't pass up. So whatever,
like hiking stuff out there.
that's what it sounded like. Something wildlife-ish.
I'm telling you, you don't ever know a PD, man. I'm literally, he's in Cabo one day, he's in Nashville the next day.
Did he bring the dogs with him? That's the question. So when he came to Atlanta to perform a few years ago after I'd met him through Michael, and Michael was there, making sure the show runs smoothly and all that, and got me a ticket to come. And I go, and as I'm walking to the establishment, I hear these two little dogs barking out of a car window. And then as I'm walking out, I hear the same two dogs, and Patrick is walking into that vehicle. He goes, "Oh yeah, I take them everywhere, man. Like those are our kids."
He might have. Tyler just said, "Yeah, that's right. He's with Kenneth and Cindy Long." He told us that. When was that, Darren? Last week or the week before?
Yeah, whenever I didn't remember the names, but it was some cool experience thing.
If he's with
everything,
if he's with the Long family, he's not funding this trip. Ken and Sidney Long's name is on the ops building over there in South Carolina.
Oh, wow.
That should tell everybody a little bit.
Yeah.
So, hey, do you want to talk about some football or?
Yeah, bring it.
No,
let's do it.
Maybe. Look, we've discussed a lot about South Carolina, so we'll kind of hold off on that and maybe wrap with a little bit, but let's kind of drive around the SEC with you, Mike, and we won't spend too much time with it on everyone. I know we don't have you for a bunch of time, but kind of get a little snippet on all these programs, just kind of what you're thinking as we enter week one, and then we'll move from there. But Tennessee and Bowling Green are going to go on Thursday night. This is a win for Tennessee. We all know that. Bowling Green's not any good, and Tennessee's really not any good either, but they're better than Bowling Green. But it is week one for Josh Heupel. Offensively, I think we're all probably expecting to see some points. Defensively, I don't even know if they have enough players. But what are you most focused on here? I mean, we don't know exactly how good they're going to be, and it is week one and all these type things. What are you focused on in this game?
Quarterback.
Yeah.
I want to know what they have.
Is it Joe Milton they named?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if they use multiple.
Probably, yeah.
If this game gets out of hand, I think there's a lot of teams trying to figure out who their next signal caller is going to be long term, where if you get the opportunity, you put another guy out there. Going back to the crux of the offseason, I thought one of the biggest issues in this league was there's a lot of new quarterbacks that are now thrust into a starting role in the Southeastern Conference. And with that, there's a whole lot of question marks. And obviously, Carolina to a degree is in that boat, and Tennessee is in that boat. I mean, you can go down the line. Kentucky is in that boat. There's a bunch of teams this year, unlike what we had last year. Last year, there was a whole lot of returning starters at quarterback in the league. So when you have that, a lot of unpredictability can happen. So, yeah, I want to see. I mean, look, I know what Josh Heupel's about. I covered him at Missouri when he was an offensive coordinator. I'm very familiar with what he did at UCF. I'm very familiar how that coaching search went, which is very similar to like a lot of coaching searches where you think you're going to get this guy. No, that guy. No, that guy. No. Okay, you're the guy. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean it's the wrong choice. As I was watching Nebraska, what the bed against Illinois, I couldn't help think that was Florida's number one choice. And Chip Kelly was Florida's number two choice before they landed on Dan Mullen. Ed Orgeron was not LSU's number one choice, and they won a national title. Brian Harsin was not Auburn's number one choice. I mean, anybody who tells you that is kidding. So Josh Heupel was not the guy that most Tennessee fans wanted, but he can gain some popularity if they look good on Thursday night, and if they've got a quarterback that they can really rally around, because the Garantano era was just miserable in so many ways. And the fact that you kept looking at that bench and it's like, we don't have anybody better. And that tells you where Tennessee football was. So where are they now at the quarterback spot? That's what I want to know.
Well, I think it's fair. I mean, it's going to be a struggle defensively for Tennessee. I think we all know that. But if they score enough points, maybe they can overcome some of that. By the way,
it might be a struggle offensively too. I mean, I don't know if there's a ton to get excited about with Tennessee's offense right now.
Eric Gray's gone. They had, I think, a lineman or two leave as well.
They had mass defections.
Oh yeah. It's been that's one of the things that I'm a little caught off guard by is as it pertains. Look, I know that South Carolina hasn't been any good. Let's just be honest, last couple of years. But I mean, Tennessee hasn't been any good either. And there's a lot of people that look at them and think that there's maybe 3 wins difference between those two teams. I don't see that. I mean, it might be. I don't know. But I don't think it's just a foregone conclusion that, well, Tennessee's probably going to win 6 and Gamecocks win 3.
No, not at all.
I don't know where this is coming from with some people.
Look, for some of it, there's still the I don't want to say stigma. That's the wrong word. There is a perception that Tennessee is a brand, and that Tennessee can't possibly screw it up longer than the 15 years that they have, right? And when I say screw up, Butch Jones did have a couple of respectable years. I mean, if you look back, I'm pretty sure there was a couple of 9-win seasons in Knoxville under Butch, and they still hated him for it. They still wanted him out. But for the most part, when you look at everything that's happened in Knoxville since they actually were competing for a national championship not that long ago under Phil Fulmer, and then they get rid of Phil because it was clearly going downhill under Phil toward the end. And then it's one mysterious hire after another. It's one coaching search disaster after another. It's poor results on the field. It's just been a real, I've said a number of times, like Tennessee football over the last decade and a half could be a 30 for 30. And it's hard to believe that a program that was on such a good footing and that does have tradition and has always had facilities, that they could go from Peyton Manning to this, that they could go from a national title with T. Martin to this, and it wasn't that long ago. So that's but again, why they picked ahead of Carolina? Well, Carolina, of course, was miserable last year, and they have a coaching change, and I think a lot of it is the perception that they've recruited better and they've got the bigger name on the jersey, so to speak. But you're right, I don't see a big difference in the personnel with those two programs this year. Not at all. I mean, to me, that's a very winnable game for Carolina.
Tennessee has won a natty. Yeah, well, that's not going to help them in 2021.
No,
I could give 2 craps if they won a national championship.
Nebraska
they've
won 3 of them in the 90s. Nebraska won 3 natties in the 90s, and look at where Nebraska's at.
Yeah, so what? Who cares? I did laundry last night. What's your point?
Did you separate the whites? Because you don't strike me as a guy that would separate the whites.
No, I don't separate the whites.
Okay, I didn't think so.
No. That's like a weird new thing. I was always taught you separate them, but I'm not going down that road. That is a new weird bad trend thing, though.
I don't separate them. You know,
no.
If there's a casualty, there's a casualty.
That's right.
I'll get another white shirt.
That's right. Shane Beamer is at the podium. By the way, we'll keep you updated on anything notable that comes from that. He did say, by the way, that the Gamecock Walk will return this year if you're interested. All right, Mike. So let's talk about LSU and UCLA at 8:30 on Fox from the Rose Bowl. Whew, I mentioned to Darren earlier. This is interesting. So they've been away from home. Obviously, thoughts and prayers with everybody down there. Hurricane Ida has just been terrible. And then so they've been on the road. I think maybe Houston. They're relocated. They've been practicing. They're going to fly to LA. They're going to play the game. UCLA did play a game this week. They beat Hawaii. So they got 4 quarters of football in to try to knock the rust off a little bit. That's also 4 quarters LSU gets to see on tape for preparation. I get that. But, Kirk Herbstreit this weekend was like, watch out, Tigers.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you I don't know how much you saw of UCLA and what you saw. Okay. Well,
yeah. I mercifully had to watch almost every play of that game and Illinois, Nebraska, because I hosted the overtime show on Sirius XM 84 that night. So I watched both games almost in their entirety. Look, I get it. You've got a returning quarterback that at times flashes as a really exciting player that can make plays with his arm and his feet. You've got a running back transfer that showed out in that game. And you've got Chip Kelly, and I refuse to believe Chip Kelly just forgot how to coach offense. Like I think,
right.
Is he a great motivator? Is he a great somewhere along the line, Chip lost his swag.
Mm-hmm.
He went to the NFL, and there were some moments there that I think crippled him from a reputation standpoint. And I'm not sure if he's totally recovered from that, but I'd like to see Chip Kelly succeed, to be honest with you. I think Chip Kelly's good for college football, and I think anybody on the left coast being relevant, other than Oregon, would be good for college football.
True.
This is their best team, and this is their best chance to win. And if LSU goes in there and they don't bring it, they could definitely lose that game. It won't be because of an intimidating crowd.
No.
You saw the crowd. I mean, it's just pathetic. Like they clearly just don't care. And I get the feeling at least half that crowd will be LSU fans that gobbled up tickets. So I'm not worried about an intimidating environment for LSU, but UCLA can be an intimidating team. That is a very losable game if you're not careful. So I think it should be an entertaining one in the Rose Bowl.
My thought, and you weigh in on this, was it would tell me more about LSU if they go out there and they look very impressive. That would tell me more than if they go struggle with the bumps in the road they're going through just simply this week to prepare for the game. If they go out there and they look awesome and they clear all those hurdles, that's more of a statement than if they don't really play well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing going for LSU now is they just have to flush out the memory of 2020.
Yeah. To
go from a national championship to a 5-5 record to the worst defense in the history of LSU football. It's over 100 years. To me, it looked like at times they quit, quite frankly. It looked like there was a little bit of a mini revolt against Coach O. We don't have enough time to deal with why and how. But this is a new year, and I think that's been flushed out, and they need to show that. I think there's a good chance that Johnson was going to win the quarterback battle regardless. And so I don't think that's as big a story as some would make it out to be. But their defense with a new coordinator has to show all those athletes, including Stingley, who could be a top 10 draft pick. They have to play like it, and they can out-athlete UCLA 1 through 22. I have no doubt in my mind. But they have to show it. Last year, they didn't show it. Last year, they were one of the most disappointing teams in college football. I don't expect that this year. I think this will be a bounce-back year for LSU.
Mike Morgan, 122 on this Tuesday afternoon. All right, let's touch on Ole Miss and Louisville quickly. Then I want to get to Georgia and Clemson with you. But, Ole Miss is – we all know how intriguing they are. With Lane Kiffin and that offense. Matt Corral might be the best quarterback in the league. We'll find out. I don't know much about Louisville. I feel like I did, but now all of a sudden I don't know anything about Louisville. What do you see when you look at this game?
I don't know much about them either. I just know that they have kind of fallen off a cliff, For a while there, Louisville had it going. Louisville really had it going. And, I go back to the Big 12. Louisville wanted into the Big 12, and the Big 12 said, nah, we're good. And so they wind up going to the ACC, and the ACC now has gotten a little bit better, and Louisville has regressed, and they've had, guys like Coach Cragthorpe that didn't pan out, and it's just been a rough go for Louisville. So Ole Miss should win the game, and for the reason you mentioned, Matt Corral. And he's got some weapons to go around him. Matt Corral,
is he a Heisman candidate?
Absolutely. Okay. He's got a chance to. You mentioned best quarterback in the conference. He's got a chance to be the best quarterback in the country if he plays like he's capable. The problem is, Ole Miss defensively, I don't think will win enough games for Matt Corral to seriously win the award. But he'll be on the list, and he could potentially get to New York if he played like he did last year. He was terrific. He was absolutely terrific. So Ole Miss should win the game, but it's certainly anytime you play another Power 5 school, it can be a potential challenge for you if you're not careful.
Yeah, if you break the West up with Bama, I think this is how most people think about it. Bama, A&M, LSU. Like that's the top group. Bama on top, and then who knows, LSU or A&M. And then there's always kind of that second group. You know, who is it? Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Auburn, Arkansas. If you ask me today, well, of those teams, who's got the best chance to step into that top tier? I think it's Ole Miss.
If they find a defense.
That's right.
And I just don't know if they have it yet.
Yeah.
Maybe not I just don't know, but they have been woeful. And it's funny because I think a lot of people are under the impression like they went 7-3 or 8-2 last year. They went 5-5. They went 5-5. They had the same record LSU did.
Right.
But when you go 5-5 and you have an electric offense that's exciting and a quarterback that everybody is in love with, you just have a better vibe about everything, don't you? As opposed to 5-5 and struggling on offense and playing ugly football. And, that's the difference. But they haven't had a problem scoring points in Oxford in a while. What they've had a problem with is stopping anybody. And I don't know if all of a sudden that gets fixed in this year 2 of Lane Kiffin.
All right, Mike, the game that I think pretty much everybody's focused on is Georgia and Clemson in Charlotte on Saturday night on ABC. Tigers are 3-point favorites in the ball game. I mentioned to Darren earlier, it seems like a very quiet confidence coming out of the upstate. Georgia's had some issues, some personnel issues. Eric Gilbert is the one that stands out. But let's back ourselves up about 6 weeks here. Eric Gilbert wasn't even part of the program.
Right.
So, I get it. I get it. The expectations were there long before he committed to play football at Georgia. I hope he's okay and certainly well wishes to his situation. So I don't know necessarily who has more to prove or anything like that in this game. I think we need to remember this is also week 1 and there's a long ways to go. If somebody gets beat, that doesn't mean they're out. They probably need to keep winning, but it doesn't mean they're out. But when you look at the game, who has the advantage going into it?
Well, I think it's a pick'em game in my estimation, but I think the game is more important for Georgia for a couple reasons. Number one, there's a whole lot of narrative around the Georgia fan base that if not now, when? Like if this isn't the team for Kirby that wins it all, then when is that happening? That's where the bar is being set right now in Athens. Also, Clemson loses this game. I don't know if they have another losable game on the schedule. They could easily rattle off 11-12 in a row and still find themselves in the playoff. Georgia's a little bit more complex than that. If Georgia loses this one, they don't have much of a margin of error unless you believe a 2-loss Georgia team would go to the playoff. And if you, for that matter, unless you believe a 3-loss, because if they lose another game in the regular season, do you really think they're going to beat Alabama and Atlanta? Probably not.
I think it's 10-2 in the regular season. They're out.
Yeah. So so from that standpoint, like they don't have a whole lot of margin of error. If you're Georgia, this game means a heck of a lot. It's not one of those, that's okay, we lose this one, then we'll still find our way to the playoff. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. So I'm expecting a close game. I'm expecting an exciting game. Love the matchup. Can't wait to see it. It'll be DVR'd.
It'll be yeah. What, you're not going to be watching this in the booth in Nashville?
No.
Oh, come on.
This is the way it always works. Like the games that I would watch for sure are the games that I can't watch live because I'm on the air, and I'm sure the same will happen in week 2 and week 3, but I will watch it. I guarantee you that.
All right, we'll wrap up here with South Carolina. Again, Shane Beamer is meeting with the media. By the way, quick uniform report for everybody. Everybody can probably go ahead and get over those uniform videos they were doing under Will Muschamp. That's not going to happen anymore. It is white, garnet white for everybody that is wondering. And Shane says, yeah, we're not going to have a different uniform for the next 12 weeks around here. So it looks like the old Spurrier, hey, just put the damn uniform on and go play
Good
football
deal.
is back. You know what I mean? Yeah, guys, let's just play football.
Yeah.
Like
Quit worrying
Saban,
about what color helmet we're going to wear.
yeah, like Saban says, he's not worried about the uniform. He's worried about the guys inside the uniform.
All right. Yeah. Come on. He also says that Luke Doty, if he's not 100%, is not going to play. And he didn't really care who they were going to play this week. If he's not 100%, why are we going to play him? They got a long season ahead of them.
Yep.
But Zeb Nolan and all the cute headlines that come with it has now officially been announced as the starting quarterback against Eastern Illinois, Mike. I just kind of wonder what this means to you, not personally, but as you have covered the program in the grand scheme of things. It's a game that Carolina should win, will win handedly. What's important about this game was Zeb Nolan obviously leading the charge at QB and for the rest of the program, because there's a tricky game maybe in week 2 at East Carolina.
I think this, and I know the whole crew that'll be doing the game for television, and I know how TV works. Zeb Nolan will be the focal point of the broadcast because he's a great story.
Certainly.
That is not the focal point of this team. The focal point of this team is the guys around him. The focal point of this team is the guys on defense. Zeb Nolan is a great story for a week, and then we might not hear from him again if Doty is healthy for ECU. So I would be looking from a Carolina perspective. Is there a receiver that steps up? Is there somebody in the back seven of the defense? Because I feel good about both lines of scrimmage if I'm Carolina, and I feel good about my running backs. But every other position has some question marks, and I want to see at least a few of those question marks answered going into week 2. So Zeb Nolan, you're going to hear that story. It's going to be all over the place, and it's fun to talk about. But that's not the focal point of Gamecock football in 2021, unless I'm missing something. And I don't think, even if he has like a great game, it's Eastern Illinois. It's not just an FCS program; it's a bad FCS program. So I don't think you learn a whole lot out of your quarterback in this game. So I think it's a lot of other things that I'd be looking at that are not named Noland.
Shane Beamer, first game as a head coach ever, and at his dream school, South Carolina. I'm not going to ask you something.
He's excited for a long time. That I like the hire. I think the hire made sense for what Carolina is now, what Carolina needs going forward. And regardless of who the opponent is, week 1 is week 1. Your first game as a head coach is going to be a lot of things going through a lot of blood pumping through those veins, and a lot of enthusiasm and everything else that goes along with it. So I'm happy for him. Hope he gets what he wants out of it, and he'll learn enough to feel better about what lies ahead in week 2 and beyond.
We'll let you run on that note. Mike Morgan will be calling the Vanderbilt ETSU game coming up on Saturday night on the SEC Network Plus, I believe.
Yeah, same platform as the Gamecock game. As I've said before, there's a lot of these. This is a lot of part of the future. Streaming is going to be big, and I know everybody kind of wigs out whenever they see something that's new, but you're going to get used to the fact that pretty much you're going to be watching games through your phone or computer, and you hit a button and it shows up on your big screen TV, and that's the way a lot of games are going to be broadcast. So it's going to be less and less of an adjustment in the near future for sure.
Yeah, four games.
It's what I do. It's what I did every Saturday last year when I wasn't doing college football. I had 3 TVs set up, and I had various different streams popping everywhere. I saw every game I wanted to see.
That's again, that is the future. And when people said, cutting the cord and what's going to happen? Oh my goodness. This is what happens. True sports fans are going to spend $6-7 a month for an app that will allow you to watch any game you want at any time you want. It's what they call OTT, over the top, so you no longer have to have a cable provider and still get all the sports you want. So grandma, who is spending $150 a month to watch Madlock reruns, she doesn't care about having cable or sports, and that's fine. Grandma can play Scrabble and still enjoy whatever she would like to watch. But for sports fans, a lot of the games you're going to watch in all sports are going to be broadcasted this way. The quality on our end, I can promise you, we don't do anything differently or anything less. Neither will the crew in Columbia. It's the same approach that we do any other broadcast. It's just not on what they call linear channel. You're going to have to go ahead and get used to going to an app to find a lot of the games that you want to see.
4 of the SEC's ball games this weekend will be on the ESPN Plus, SEC Network Plus.
And every program is going to be on it at least once.
Right. Yeah.
That's their way of telling you you're gonna want to get the ESPN app. And I'm not selling it here. I don't get commission.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, as a sports fan, for me, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. Or buy yourself a Fire Stick and plug it in.
There you go.
One way or another. Yeah. Well, Mike, we certainly look forward to. I won't be able to watch you on Saturday night. I'll be in Williamsburg Stadium.
I understand. We'll chat. No chat next week about a bunch of stuff. Regardless,
chat next week, and we'll look at the future of Bishop Sycamore football.
Oh yeah, I've got plenty of thoughts on that too. But
we don't have enough time.
We'll get to that next week.
Yeah, they're going to be on ESPN Plus as well, boys and girls. What their coach said from prison.
And Cam Newton, and we'll handle all that next week.
Maybe Cam Newton's going to go play for Bishop Sycamore. Apparently, that's who they're signing these days.
About the age range, apparently.
That's right.
Yeah, I was going to say, age-wise, he'd be fine.
Yeah, he fits right in. No problem. Thank you, Mike. Thank you very much.
See you guys.
There you go. Mike Morgan joining us from Atlanta, Georgia. ETSU Vanderbilt. He's got it Saturday night. Gene Sapakoff's up next. Going to hit a quick timeout. We'll update you on Shane Beamer from Columbia when we return.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right. We take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesvw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle. And we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes Speed Up.
Negative trade equity financed a new loan, subject to lender approval.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
You hear me talk about Dog and Duck all the time, and there's no other place I'm going to watch my college and NFL than the Dog and Duck. They have 3 locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. They have specials all football season long, like $12 pitchers of their own D2 brew, $5 pints of Sierra Nevada, weekly pick'em sheets with prizes, and the best wings in town, bar none. For all your football, college, and NFL, the Dog and Duck, Clements Ferry Road, Bell Hall, and Park West. Okay, what's going on today, huh? Anything to talk about?
All right, greetings and a good Monday afternoon. Greetings and a good Tuesday afternoon. Greetings and a good Wednesday afternoon, and welcome aboard. All right, greetings and a good Thursday afternoon. Greetings and a good Friday afternoon, and welcome aboard. Had to send Darren a quick note there. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. 1:38 on this Tuesday afternoon. Shane Beamer is wrapping up his press conference in Columbia, South Carolina. We'll get you some more notes on that here in just a minute. But first, we're going to get Gene Sapakoff in here with the Post and Courier. It is game week in the Palmetto State. Gene, what's up?
Well, Shane Beamer is already going to get my Coach of the Year vote for mentioning Uncle Rico today in reference to Zeb Nolan, not saying that Zeb Nolan's like Uncle Rico, saying that he's not talking about the old days like Uncle Rico, and any Napoleon Dynamite mention is going to get kudos from me.
That's right. That's right. Well, in addition to that, he's also passed along some fairly important information. Kevin Harris, Cam Smith expected to go this weekend for the Gamecocks. So that's good news. They should not need them to beat Eastern Illinois at all, Gene. But and by the way, it looks like all these hyped up uniform tweets are going to go out the window. Shane Beamer has said, yeah, we're not doing 12 different uniform combos the rest of the year. So he's going to go back and simplify this thing anyways. But here we are. Gamecocks set to go game 1 under Shane Beamer. What has you most interested or most intrigued?
Well, I mean, Zeb Nolan first, second, and third, because if he can give them, some sort of answer at quarterback that could be something they can compete with Luke Doty with, or that maybe he just wins the job outright. I don't think we'll really know for a couple weeks, and maybe not for 3 weeks. The guy that starts the Kentucky game on September 25th, that's the Gamecock quarterback, because you're just not going to be able to tell much about this game. Eastern Illinois is such a poor football program. I believe they're 2-17 since the start of the 2019 season. And then, East Carolina, just not sure where Doty will be physically by then. Georgia game, who plays and how well they play against the Bulldogs in Athens in week 3 on September 18th, I think is going to determine kind of who's the quarterback going forward.
Right. I agree. I think that, lost in some of the national headlines with Zeb Nolan is not the fact that South Carolina did not have a quarterback and they had to just pull a GA in. They did have a quarterback. He went down with an injury. Gene, we've kind of heard around here for a while since this injury pretty much initially happened and the information on that injury became official, that you might want to circle that Georgia game for Luke Doty. So I don't want this conversation necessarily to be a look ahead conversation to East Carolina, but for the sake of what's important, I think it kind of needs to be. I think we all know they're going to win Saturday night. By how much? What's it look like? Are they going to be sloppy, not sloppy, whatever? ECU all of a sudden, I think, has snuck up on people as a potentially tricky contest in Greenville when now folks are starting to realize what actually is returning to that roster up there under Mike Houston. So what are you most paying attention to for South Carolina on Saturday night as it pertains to maybe a trick game in Greenville week 2?
You kind of touched on it, mentioning how good news it is that Cam Smith's back, because I think him getting on the field and maybe not playing 70 snaps, as Shane Beamer just referred to, Cam would like to do that. They're not going to obviously push him nearly that hard, but let's see how this defense can get into a flow and get some rhythm going and just get some chemistry too, and in all 3 levels of the defense, because it's a new thing. I think Clayton White has done a heck of a job rallying these guys from what we've heard. But I wrote about this on Sunday in my prediction for the Gamecocks, and you got to be honest about this. The Clemson offensive line, which is suspect, is talking about how they benefit each day from going against what is either the best or second or third best defensive line in the country. Well, similarly, the South Carolina defense is going against quarterbacks that, with all due respect, couldn't start for just about any other SEC team, maybe Vanderbilt. And that's not good when you're trying to toughen up a defense. And so it's going to be interesting to see how they come together. You want to just see sharpness, good tackling fundamentals against Eastern Illinois, and then really go into Greenville, North Carolina, and play well, because we know what Mike Houston can do everywhere he's been. Lenore Ryan, the Citadel, James Madison, and now here he is at East Carolina. And yeah, they were 3-6 last year. They were coming at the end of the year, 28-3 over Temple, 52-38 over a pretty good SMU team. And they've got a veteran quarterback, this Holton Ahlers kid. So it's going to be, and some good kids from South Carolina too, by the way, on that roster. But it's going to be interesting. And yeah, you don't want to look ahead. I'm already fascinated by September 11th in Greenville, North Carolina.
I agree. Rajay Harris, one of those South Carolina kids, he's from Duncan, their tailback, who's a really good football player. And yeah, we're not trying to look ahead, but what matters this weekend is important, because what we see might tell us a little bit about what's coming in week 2, and certainly what they'll need to clean up, Gene, before they get to week 2. The secondary is probably one of those things. I don't know how much of a test they're going to get against Eastern Illinois. Let's talk, though, about Shane. I mean, you've been around here a long time. You've seen the first games for Muschamp and Spurrier and Holtz and Brad Scott, now all these Sparky Woods, all these guys. I mean, I don't know that of any of those guys. Actually, I know that this game one for Shane Beamer, regardless who they play, Eastern Illinois, Alabama, or Bishop Sycamore, means more to him personally than it meant to all of them combined. On Saturday night, how do you anticipate this kind of coming together? It's a lowly team. Generally, any other year is probably not going to be a lot of fanfare and a lot of emotion in the ballpark. But what are you anticipating in Williams-Brice Stadium?
I think it's going to be just unabashed enthusiasm. And, they've changed the big banner on the side of the stadium on Bluff Road there to say welcome back, which has kind of been Shane's theme. And one thing being inside that football building this summer is his enthusiasm, which all new coaches have that. But I mean, it is so thick and thorough from Shane Beamer and his coordinators on down through the coaching staff and the players to whoever's sweeping up the place. I mean, everybody just seems to have kind of a hop in their step and an extra smile and a bit of excitement. And I want to see how that transfers onto the field, because what really is going to matter is finishing blocks, making tackles, second level tackles, which just killed them the last few years under Will Muschamp in a puzzling way, because he was a good, aggressive defensive back, overachiever guy, as a football player, and then a really good defensive coordinator. So that's what bugged me more than anything under Muschamp, is how poorly that team fundamentally tackled. So I just want to see basic things, finish blocks, make tackles, stuff like that consistently.
Gene, let's hit the road for Charlotte. The biggest game in the country is only 3 hours away from Charleston, and it's Clemson and it's Georgia. How do you envision this thing? What have you been most focused on in the biggest game one matchup for both of these teams in quite a while?
Yeah, there's so many subplots to this one, and they are really similarly built teams. But Kirby Smart, on a Zoom call that we had with him yesterday, said something really interesting, that, Georgia's defensive line, which is the first or second or third best in the country, is really built to stop the run. They have so many 300-pound guys. Jordan Davis at nose tackle in the middle, 6'6", 340. And they have several guys in the 2 and 3 deep over 300 pounds. And Kirby said, you look at Clemson's defensive line, and they're really built to stop the pass. And there's 255, 265-pound guys on that defensive line. Of course, there's Brian Brzee, and he's huge and stuff like that. But really, he's right. And it's a different kind of approach. So how these two defensive lines go about their business against very good quarterbacks. We know about DJ Uiagalelei. He's my favorite to win the Heisman Trophy.
Wow.
But JT Daniels is a heck of a quarterback, the second or third best quarterback in the SEC, which is always saying something. And he improved toward the end of the year last year. Doesn't have that really great big win under his belt, but he could easily get it Saturday night.
Oh, absolutely. So, I think one of the talking points, it's talking season still until they play, is that if Clemson, well, let's play hypotheticals here. If they lose, Gene, what does that mean? Because there's no Miami. Now, you could see Miami or you could see North Carolina or something like that in the ACC championship game, and you got to hope that one of those teams isn't like 9-3 slipping into that game. You got to hope that they're really good. But on the regular season schedule, we talked about this last week, none of those guys are there. So if they get beat, where does that put Clemson in the grand scheme of things as it pertains to the postseason?
If they get beat on Saturday night against Georgia, it puts them in at least a very stressful situation in which Dabo Swinney several times between Saturday night or early Sunday morning and very late into November and coming into December is going to be snapping at people for criticizing Clemson's schedule, which on paper looks easier than even the few previous years' ACC schedules, because they don't play Miami, North Carolina, Virginia, Virginia Tech. It appears that they've really gotten a break in the ACC schedule this year, and there's not another strong non-conference opponent, with South Carolina kind of being down. So it's going to be tough for them to make their case. They would need to hope that Oklahoma, Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, that one or two of those teams lose, that no one comes out of the Pac-12 undefeated, and then for Clemson to have to make a statement in the ACC championship game. Maybe all that can happen. It probably could, but still, it puts them in a tough spot. Georgia, on the other hand, they do not have the toughest regular season schedule, especially by SEC standards. At Auburn and Florida and Jacksonville are the two games that are the toughest, and that's a pretty good draw for Georgia. But if they were to lose, and maybe that schedule is kind of soft, but if they run the table, they're in the SEC championship game, and I'm pretty sure they'll get a good opponent in that game.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, if you win the West, you're probably pretty good. When you look at the Georgia schedule, Gene, I see. Look, I get it. Auburn's there, the Deep South's oldest rivalry. I'm not a big believer in Auburn this year. I don't think it's going to be a very good year for them. Although Bo Nix and Tank Bigsby are headliners, and although they brought in Mike Bobo, and although they brought in Brian Harsin, and they brought in Derek Mason, I don't know. I don't see it just yet. But as it pertains to the schedule, if you told me that Arkansas, Kentucky, I know that Florida's there, excluding them, Arkansas, Kentucky, or Missouri were road games, I'd say, ooh, those have trap game written all over them. But they're all in Athens. And I like those teams. They're all teams that have a lot to prove this year, but they all play in Athens. So I'm with you. I don't know outside of Florida that I really see something that says, yeah, that's dicey.
Yeah, that's right. But like I said, Georgia's chance, if they can run the table and stay consistent, is going to come in playing Alabama in Atlanta. And obviously, if they win that game, they're in great shape, even with the season opening loss to Clemson by 20 points. They're going to be in the playoff if they win that. So I really like this Georgia team. They are young in the secondary, but they are banged up at receiver. Still so much talent on that roster, and especially on the offensive defensive lines. I think that Zamir White's a heck of a running back, and they have good guys behind him. And like I said, JT Daniels is a good quarterback who is getting better.
It sounds weird to say it, Gene. How much pressure in this game is on Clemson? I know the college football playoff stuff that we just talked about in the road back, but you've talked about it. We've talked about it, this sense of a chip on their shoulder. The last time we saw them, they didn't look good. They go out here and they lose to Georgia. The national narrative is Clemson has fallen, and there's no way this year until the end of the season that they can really change that narrative. So how much pressure is on them week one?
Quite a bit. There's definitely more pressure on Clemson in Charlotte, and for a couple of reasons. One, the schedule that they have going forward, but two, yeah, you mentioned, Darren, the Sugar Bowl 49-28 loss to Ohio State, in which they just looked. That was the worst all-around game of the playoff era that I've seen them have. And Ohio State, a very good team, but not a great team. So the national championship loss to LSU at the end of the 2019 season, 42-25, that was just a once in a four generation LSU team. Yeah. So there's some excuses there. The game's in New Orleans, LSU is almost playing at home, blah, blah, blah. But one thing about Clemson, the last two times out, in playoff games, they've just gotten hammered by LSU and Ohio State. And yeah, I know they beat Notre Dame handily in the ACC championship game last year, and Notre Dame made the playoff. But Clemson's got to change kind of the tune here and get back to winning big games consistently, or you're going to say, hey, they're in a slump. They've lost 3 of their last 4 big games if they lose to Georgia.
1:53 on this Tuesday afternoon. All right, so final one here on Georgia, or on Georgia and Clemson here. All right, so let's say it doesn't really matter for the sake of this conversation who wins, but I'm going to use Georgia in the example because they're currently ranked number 5, which by my math puts them 1 slot outside of the top 4, which is important at the end of the year. Oklahoma's got Tulane coming to town this weekend. They're scheduled to go to Tulane. The Hurricane has changed those plans. So Norman will host that game. And Ohio State, they're at Minnesota on Thursday night. A game they're expected to win. And then obviously at number 3 right there is Clemson. And that's Georgia's matchup. If Georgia beats Clemson, Gene, I envision a scenario where they could actually hop from 5 to 2, right over Ohio State, right over Oklahoma, bump them down, bumping Clemson maybe outside of the top 4. And then they're basically in a numbers game, right? Just keep winning. Even if you win out and you lose the SEC championship game by virtue of being at 2, you might not even fall out of the top 4, very similar to what happened to Notre Dame last year.
Well, that's a great point. And there you go. If they beat Clemson and run the table, they've beaten Clemson. Even if they lose to Alabama and an undefeated Alabama in the SEC championship game, or actually an Alabama team with 1 loss, Alabama would be the SEC champion. If there's one consistent thing about the committee, it's that they value conference championships. Okay, so then you'd have Alabama as a conference champion, but Georgia as a 1-loss team, their only loss being to that conference champion, but they would trump Clemson by having beaten them on a neutral field. Another problem for Clemson. Having said all that, they've just had so many injuries and so much, tumultuous stuff going on in practice these last few weeks. I don't know if they can get their act completely together by Saturday night, and I don't think Kirby Smart thinks that at all. I mean, like he said yesterday, whatever team, and Dabo repeated the same thing today in his Zoom call, his presser, that I also watched on Zoom, but that both Georgia and Clemson are going to get significantly better as the next few weeks go on and as the season goes on, obviously. But that's because they're both such exceptionally talented teams. I think Georgia just might not be really fully themselves for a couple of weeks, which won't coincide well for the Gamecocks because they have to go to Athens on September 18th.
Yeah. It'd be so fitting in the history of Gamecock football. Georgia struggles out of the gates, then all of a sudden they're healthy and fully loaded and ready to go, and Doty's going to make his first start against them.
Yeah, that's very possible.
Yeah, with Will Muschamp, not just on Kirby Smart's staff, but now on the sideline. That's just really interesting to me.
Oh, yeah, there will be some passion in that one from the fans' perspective. Let's keep with the players, man. Really like Will Muschamp still. All right, Gene, on a national scale here, who's got the best chance to be upset? Who would you circle as being on, quote, upset alert in this weekend's grand opening of college football?
Wow, that's a really good one. I'm not going to pick Alabama. I have a lot of respect for Miami, Derek King and stuff, but I just think that's a little too much to handle there. I think there's a lot of cred going here to North Carolina, and they're doing the right things there. They've got Sam Howell. I think going into Blacksburg for a Friday night game against Virginia Tech could be really tough. And Justin Fuente's got a lot to prove this year. That would be my upset alert game for a really good team.
LSU, UCLA, that's a 3-point line. I'm gonna throw this one at you, and don't anybody laugh just yet, because generally I would be the one laughing at this. I'm just saying, careful Notre Dame Sunday night in Tallahassee. So I don't think Florida State is that good, but that's 7.5. Somebody knows something we don't know, Gene.
Yeah, that's a good point. And breaking in a new quarterback on the road, big crowd. You're right. That could be tough. And what a turnaround thing that could be for Mike Norvell to get them going there. But coach, just such good coaching throughout the Notre Dame coaching staff, if you will. I just don't. I see him being really well prepared for that game. Notre Dame's problems come at the end of the season, not at the start usually.
That's very true. That's very true. All right, Citadel and Coastal on Thursday night. What are you looking forward to in that one quickly as we wrap up here?
Yeah, I just want to see if the Chanticleers still have their sharpness and what the Bulldogs can learn from the spring season and the really impressive go and playing 4 games last fall when nobody else in their league did.
Yep. That's a great point. Absolutely. Yeah, this is a very important year for Coastal, not necessarily in taking the next, coinciding with taking the next step, you want to call it that, for G5, but if they win 10 games or so again, keep an eye on Jamie Chadwell. Who knows how much longer he sticks around in Conway, Gene, and who knows where he ends up either. But certainly a talking point.
And hey, also another good Thursday night game, East Carolina at App State. A lot of Gamecock eyes on that.
There should be a lot of Gamecock guys on that. There's no question. Gene, have a wonderful weekend. It's all back next week. As we mentioned to Mike Morgan, we'll have a roundtable about the future of Bishop Sycamore football.
I'm a big Bishop Sycamore fan. I go way back.
Yeah, that's right.
If you wanted to know or wanted to care, they're the Centurions, and they don't exist anyway, so who cares?
That's right. Thank you, Gene.
Thanks. One correction, East Carolina, App State in Charlotte. Sorry, I messed up there. But yeah, thanks, guys, for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Always. There you go. Gene Sapakoff with the Post and Courier. It is National South Carolina Day. Put on anything and everything you can and drink something local to South Carolina, like whiskey jam that is made right here at Firefly Distilleries. How about that? Do you think Coastal will still be good like last year, or are they a flash in the pan? I think they will still be very good.
They're going to look very good Thursday. I will say that. And then we'll see how they go. Hey, they should be really good, yeah.
They don't have the Cajuns on their schedule this year. They might go undefeated. I like Coastal.
They're going to look very, very good Thursday.
Yeah. Thanks to Mike and Gene. Tomorrow, J.C. Sherbert, Keith Allsep, everything that Shane Beamer talked about today, everything that pertains to the SEC and Gamecocks and you name it, we'll have it right here on our program. Thanks to Darren. Thanks to all of you. Have a terrific Tuesday afternoon. We'll see you tomorrow at noon on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.